Hello everyone, welcome to this Namos User Group webinar, which is about reporting and analytics in Oracle Cloud. Our speaker today is Dan Ryan. Without further ado, Dan, over to yourself.
Great, thanks, Yayan, and welcome everybody. So as Yayan said, we're going to be looking at reporting and analytics in Oracle Cloud today. My name is Dan Ryan, and I've recently joined joined Team Namos as the Reporting and Analytics Practice Director. So I'm looking after the team who will come in and support you with your reporting and analytics needs. So by background, I've actually come from a customer background. I was 8 years as a functional lead for reporting and analytics at a customer, including the reporting and analytics lead during a large implementation of Fusion Cloud. I spent some time in operational delivery at the NHS as well. And following my time at or being a customer, I've spent 6 years at Oracle doing solution consulting for reporting and analytics. And I'm also an Oracle ACE associate, so I'm constantly sort of sharing best practice and things on social media and supporting users on the forum as well. So if you're interested in any of that, then please join the forum, follow me on LinkedIn, and you'll get a lot of information there as well. So looking at what we're going to go through today, the first thing that we're going to do is have a look at reporting and analytics in Oracle Cloud. So look at the entire landscape and how it all fits together. And then we'll go into each of the sections. So we'll start off with transactional reporting, move on to EPM, and finally on to analytics. And then we'll have time to go through the questions that you've asked throughout the session. I won't go through them as we go along, just in the interest of time and so I don't get distracted, but I will try and get to all of them at the end. And if I don't get to all of the questions at the end, then we will follow up with answers to any questions that are missed. And then to finish off, we'll just go through some next steps and a call to action that Yayan will go through before finishing off and leaving you go on to enjoy the rest of your day and your weekend. So before I get started with what I'm going to present, I'm just going to launch a quick poll. So the question for this one is, how do you feel about reporting and analytics in Oracle Cloud? So hopefully you should see that poll on your screen now. So if you just click on one of the options and submit, that would be great. I'll just give a couple of seconds for that. Okay, that's brilliant. So looking at what those results are showing, so a lot of people know that there are different tools and what they should be used for, but could do with a refresher. Some don't know what each of the tools are used for. Some are completely new to reporting and analytics. A few know exactly what they're doing with it. So it's a good spread of people. So that's good. So this should be useful for everybody, hopefully. So reporting and analytics in Oracle Cloud is something that a lot of users can get confused with. It can often feel like it's a bit of a right on cue, a bit of a glitch. So the object of today really is to make this clearer for everybody. So to start off, we'll have a look at an overview of reporting and analytics throughout Oracle Cloud. And those of you who have seen me present on reporting and analytics in the past will have seen this slide. So I generally split the reporting and analytics needs into 3 areas. That's to run the business, manage the business, and guide the business. And that assumes that sort of reporting and analytics is very linear in how it operates. But as I'm sure you all know and experience on a daily basis, that's not actually the case. And it's actually more cyclical. So you might start off with guiding the business, setting your strategy, managing, finding out how you're going to get there, actually executing that strategy then, and going through that constant cycle of running the reports. So that would be very much, from a guide the business perspective, you've got analytics. On managing the business, you've got enterprise performance management. And for running the business, you've got the transactional screens within Oracle Cloud and the transactional reports as well. But what I found is even that oversimplifies things. And there's quite often touch points between all of the steps. So you won't necessarily go through that cycle. You might go guide, manage, guide, run, manage, guide, bounce back and forth between each of those sections. And there's overlaps between them. And it's not as clear as just a nice straightforward cycle. And I've sort of struggled to come up with a way of sort of presenting this sometimes to represent that. And it even gets more complicated than that. Like I said, there's a lot of overlaps with exactly what's going on. So some users will be involved in guiding and managing, some guiding and running, some in every single aspect. So what I've tried to do is to break it down into the tools and where they would come in. So if you're just interested in guiding the business, that's likely to be someone who only needs the analytics. They're not going to need the transactional systems. They're not going to need the enterprise performance management system. So they would just be looking at that sort of strategic overview. So really interested in guiding the business, how things are going, the trending and performance and things like that. Again, for managing the business, if you're only interested in doing things like your EPM processes, so planning, consolidation and close, profitability and cost, and the compliance side with reporting of narrative reporting, then that would be purely EPM. And then your transactional staff who are doing the day-to-day running of the business, posting transactions, making sure things are running functionally. So your functional staff, your line of business managers and so on would be more in that transactional space. But then with the overlap, people who are guiding and running the business would need the analytics and transactional. I'm not going to go through every segment. And then somebody who's involved maybe in all three would need, and would definitely need analytics and possibly the other tools as well. And if we think about the users that would sort of fit with, guide the business, you're looking at your execs. Manage the business, you're maybe looking at your senior business partners. Running the business, you've got your functional staff. And then in the middle of run and manage, you've got your business partners, you've got your budget holders, you've got your heads of business who might need a little bit of the analytics and a little bit of the EPM. Then you've got your line of business managers who would want the transactional and maybe a little bit of analytics as well. And then your analysts in the middle who might need to have that sort of, that view of all three, or possibly even more on the analytics side as well. So appreciate that can be a little bit confusing. So I've tried to bring that back to a more realistic example. So if we think about booking a holiday, so thinking about, going back to the data as a cycle and the reporting as a cycle. So booking a holiday, the first thing that you would do is a broad analysis of the landscape. So you'd want a holistic view of everything all in one place potentially. So looking at holiday types, locations, which company you're going to book with, reviews of the hotels that you found, what your budget is, when you might want to go, have you got sufficient leave balance. So all of that information would come together, and that would generally be an analytics type use case. And then once you've decided on that, so that's setting your strategy, you would move on to planning the trip. So you've set your strategy. This is where I want to go and what I want to do. This is how I'm going to get there. How am I going to pay? What compliance requirements have I got? Do I need visas? Do I need to do anything beforehand? What's the best way of getting there? If you've booked a staycation in the UK, am I best going by public transport? Am I best going by car? Maybe even flying internally. What board basis do I want to go? You might want to do some scenario modeling around whether it's best to go all inclusive or self-catering based on how much you might spend on food and drink. So all of that would live in the enterprise performance management space. So really looking at those transactions within enterprise performance management and maybe going a little bit into the sort of AI and ML world as well with that predictive planning and things like that. And then you've booked your trip, you've planned your trip, you've done everything. It's finally the day of travel. So you're going to want to know what's going on with the departure boards, what's in your bank, do I need to move money out of savings potentially? What's the weather doing? That's going to help you plan what you're going to do on that day or during the week. The traffic information. Do I maybe need to leave earlier to get to the airport? What are the menus in the restaurant on a particular day, or what entertainment is on? So all of that is the real-time information. You don't necessarily need all of that together because you're not going to care about the menu at 10 o'clock in the morning when you're looking at what entertainment you want to do at 10:30. So all of those would sort of be more in isolation. So that would live in the transactional reporting space. So there's tools across Oracle that suit the needs of all of the users of all of those different use cases. And the idea really is providing the actionable insight at the point of need. So it's not just providing data for the sake of it. It's not just providing data. It's giving you the data when you need it so you can carry out the actions that you need. So with that in mind, I'm just going to open another poll. There's 2 questions on this one. The first question is, what Oracle tools do you use today? And then, so that it's all multi-select. And then on the bottom right of the pop-up, you've got a next question, and that's what non-Oracle tools you're using today. So if you could answer that for me, that would be great. Again, I'll just give you a couple of seconds to go through that. Okay. That's great. I'll leave that poll open, but some early results. A lot of you are using Oracle Transactional Business Intelligence, or OTBI, and BI Publisher. Not a big surprise to me, but one that I hope will change following today is not a lot of you are using the functional screens to access reports and data. That's one of the great things about Oracle Cloud, and I'll come on to that in a second. And again, on the non-Oracle tools, looking at Power BI is the vast majority of people, by the looks of things, who are using the external tools, or even none. There's not many other tools out there that are being used. So with that, we'll move on to looking at the tools themselves. So in the transactional space, the whole purpose of the reports and the data access within the transactional space is giving you the data to carry out those transactions. So the first thing that I do when I look at the transactional reporting is ask myself, do I actually need a report? So within Oracle Cloud, within the transactional screens and the workbenches, there's actually access to data within those transactional screens. So using an example of how many goals, or well, we'll see the examples in a second, but you've got things, it's provided the part of the transaction stream. You've got proactive alerts and notifications. It's always showing you your current position, and generally it's always actionable or can be actionable. But then you've also got your dedicated transactional reporting. So these are the dedicated reporting tools. So you've got BI Publisher. So for your templates, like your PO print, your invoice print, your HR letters and pay slips and so on. But also for big data extracts and your more complex requirements where you're trying to combine various subject areas together. You've then got Financial Reporting Center, which is generally for your GL balances or real-time financial statements. You've got OTBI, which are your interactive dashboards, maybe your daily management reports, and you've got both summary and transaction level detail in there. And you've also got SmartView. So that's Office integration for Financial Reporting Center, but also for OTBI as well. That's something that's often forgotten, and I've sort of reignited my love for SmartView recently. I'd sort of fallen out with love with it because it's generally seen as just for S-Space Cube, which is Financial Reporting Center and EPM, but it actually works pretty well with OTBI and analytics as well. So if we think of some of the common business questions that are asked as part of a day-to-day processing and which tools to use. So if you want to know what actions you've got outstanding or which transactions could affect performance, all of that is manageable from the home screen. So on the home screen, you've got notifications going across the middle of the screen, and you've also got the bell icon at the top here. So you'll have a red circle with a number on the bell showing you how many actions you've got outstanding. And you can view those notifications. You can approve them directly from or reject them directly from the notification as well. And then on the watch list, which is this flag icon, and it's something that's not used as much as maybe it could be. So if I just click on that flag icon, I've got all of the items that have either been set up or I've set up myself. So one of the good things about watch lists is if I've gone into any of the detail screens and created a saved filter, I can use that saved filter and add it to a watch list. So it'll come up as one of these items. So we can see here, so Liz is a procurement user or a payables user. There's 105 invoices on hold in her area that will affect the performance of maybe prompt payment and so on. So the next common business question would be, how are my team progressing against their goals? Now for this, you've got your My Team workbench. Quite often you would build a report for this, but you really don't need to. So here I'm actually logged in as myself. This is our Namos system. I'm on my Team workbench. And if I just click on my team goal center, that will actually bring up all of the data on my goals and my employees and my goals. So there's 7 goals that haven't been started. I have spoken to them all since this point, by the way, and there are a lot more in progress than there were. So there's 6 in progress. You've got a summary by person going across the middle as well. And then you've also got the people and how many goals have been completed listed down here. You can change the review period, so I can look back at previous ones, and you can have a look at the performance goals and the development goals as well. And then if you're responsible for multiple teams, you can switch your team up here. So I could have a look at sort of further down my chain. I can change the business title up here as well. So if I'm not looking at me and my direct reports, I can go further down the hierarchy there as well. And another common question in the HR space is which of my staff members are absent, or, when are my staff members going to be absent, looking at planning leave and things like that. So again, for that, we've got the My Team workbench, and we've also got transactional business intelligence. So again, logged in as myself on the My Team workbench. And if I click on my team absence calendar, this has embedded an OTBI report within my functional screens. So I've got my options down the side here for current month or for future months as well. And I can get to my functional transactions either through my navigator at the top or by clicking on one of these values here where I can see the tile is in red. So I can quickly then get to the information in the functional screens that I need to approve leave, to reject leave, to have a look at why somebody's off, for example. So really quick access to the information there. And then moving on to the finance area, what invoices do I need to deal with? Again, you've got the invoice workbench. So I've gone back now, logged in as Liz. So I've gone to my payables workbench, and I'm going to click on the invoices tile. And that brings up a list of invoices that need to be actioned. So what you can see here is there's 60 scanned invoices that are over 15 days old that haven't been posted. It's got the list of them here. If I was to click on the 16 invoices here that need approval, it would filter this list for just those invoices that need approval. If I wanted to get to a full list of invoices, I can just click on my task icon here and go to my Manage Invoices screen, and that will give me all of the invoices and a sort of custom filter at the top that I can change things like the supplier, the period, the invoice terms, and lots of other information as well. So again, invoices on hold, that's a common report that organizations will build, and then it will get emailed out to people. And by the time they've seen that report in Excel, it's out of date, and somebody else has already dealt with that invoice. Just by logging into the system and going into that invoice workbench, you've got all of that information available for you. And it's all real time. The next one is I want to see an overview of my P2P performance, not necessarily P2P, it could be any functional area. For that, you're looking then more at OTBI. So OTBI is your interactive dashboards. So you can see here, I'm in a P2P OTBI dashboard. I've got pages going across the top here for the different areas of my P2P process. I've got filters down the side. I've got some high level information here. So for how many invoices I've got on hold, the value of those invoices, how much is non-PO. Then I've got more detailed information. I can view it either, I've got view selectors in here. So if I wanted to view it as a table rather than a chart, I can just change that view. I can click on any of these values and I can get to a detailed list of all of the invoices that fall under that category. So I can get to that information really quickly. And again, I can get to the functional screens from there to action those invoices or any of the relevant transactions within these tiles. And then thinking about general ledger. So, how am I doing compared to plan? So thinking about financial close, what journals do I need to post? Which of my business areas are way off from the forecast? Then for that, you're looking at the general accounting workbench, or you're looking at financial reporting centers and SmartView, or again, OTBI. So I'm not going to look at the general accounting workbench or OTBI because we've already looked at workbenches and OTBI, but this is financial reporting center. So this is based off what's called an S-base cube. So that's just a type of database. So it's looking at intersections of data rather than being multiple tables pulled together. It's only got general ledger balances in this particular area. And then you can drill through to more detailed transactional level data within the functional system. But you can see here that I've got my filters going across the top. I've got points of view here as well that I can change. So if I want to change the ledger or the balance amount, so not the ending balance, I wanted to see the activity within the month, for example. I've got my chart of accounts going down the left. You can set this up any way that you want. These are all expandable. So I can click on travel and entertainment and get to the next level of the hierarchy. And any of these blue values here I can click on because they're hyperlinks and get to the general accounting workbench, the account monitor, detailed transactions, and then into those functional transactions as well. So all just click through to, from a high level summary through to the information that you want. And it's exactly the same in Smart View as well. So you can see here, I'm just in Microsoft Excel. I've created a connection to my Essbase cube. It's my UK chart of accounts that I'm looking at. You're not going to have all of these. This is from an Oracle demo system. So there are lots of different cubes within here that can be looked at. But then I've got my points of view here, so I can set my filters. I've got my values within here. I can zoom in and zoom out. So that's drilling up and down the hierarchy. I can change the pivot. I can do different formatting with them. And I can double click on one of these values from Excel, and that will take me back to the web version so that I can actually view the transactions in the web and carry out any functional adjustments as well. So lots of really powerful capability that exists within the workbenches themselves, within OTBI and the other dedicated reporting tools that we have. And that brings me then on to enterprise performance management. Now, again, I can split this into two separate areas. So you've got your process reporting, which is there to support the functional processes within EPM. And then you've got your formal reporting, which is narrative reporting, which is one of the processes within EPM as well for building those external outbound reports. So if we look at those sort of process-based reports, you've got things in there like strategic modeling. So you've got the reports based on your predictive planning. You've got Smart View in here as well. You can amend things directly from reports. So you've got this income statement here. You might have a forecast in there, and you can overtype the values and submit that to update your forecast directly from the report. You've also got something called IPM Insights. Now, this will analyze all of your data for you within General Ledger, and it will tell you where you've got a forecast variance, so where you forecast something that's way out from what's actually happened. So looking backwards, it will look forward to have a look at what you forecast against what the system is predicting you should be forecasting, and say or suggest that you might want to look at that. And you've also got anomaly insights as well. So where you've had actuals that have come in, maybe it's almost a flat line actual month on month, and then you've got a massive spike, it will flag that to you. And the really good thing about this is it won't just do it at the top level. So if you're looking at your actual versus budget at a group level, everything might be fine, as people in finance will know. But if you drill down a few levels, you might have a few cost centers that are way over and a few cost centers that are way under. So they need to deal with issues potentially that you wouldn't be aware of. Insights will surface those issues for you. You've also got things like task manager and consolidation and close. So you can see exactly how many tasks are outstanding, where the bottlenecks are. So you can really set things up to improve the overall performance of the departments. And then moving on to the formal reporting side, you've got narrative reporting. So this is for you, very much for your templated outbound reports that are combining data and narrative. So there are developments coming in this space. At the end of this year, Oracle are scheduled to release an interface from analytics into narrative reporting. So you'll be able to use OAC visualizations within your narrative reports as well. So the use case for this would very much be, your monthly board packs, like I said, where you're combining the data and the narrative, or your annual reports and accounts. You've also got the AI capabilities in there. So you've got your narrative generation, you've got your conditional text. So there's lots of the newer capabilities coming into it as well. So Oracle Analytics then, moving on from EPM and conscious of time as well. So there's different options for analytics, and we need to look really at what the difference is between reporting and analytics as well. So if we think about the differences, reporting tends to be looking at what, analytics is looking at why. You're looking at the day-to-day data versus monitoring the strategic objectives, current data against trends and patterns, looking at very focused, specific things compared to a more holistic, rounded view and the interdependencies. There's a big difference in how you present the data, and also whether you're just focusing on internal and external data. And when it comes to analytics, there's a question of a build versus buy. Now, both have a place. If you want to have something that's very specific, that maybe covers a very broad spectrum of different systems, then you're likely to have build. If you're looking at your Oracle data, you've got FAIDP, so the Fusion Artificial Intelligence Data Platform, as it's known now, which was previously FDI. So you might look to buy. Most people will come somewhere in between, either side of that extreme. I'm only going to look at the buy side today because it includes all of the things that you need for build. So I'm going to talk about the Fusion Artificial Data Intelligence Platform. So it's actually the Artificial Intelligence Data Platform, not artificial data. So for that, you've got everything that you need for your analytics journey. You've got OAC at the front end. You've got the data lakehouse as your infrastructure. You've got pre-built data pipelines for your Fusion applications, all into a shared analytics data model, and it's fully extensible with third-party applications and data as well. Where that's now expanded is you've got the AI data platform workbench underneath that as well, that brings all of that infrastructure together. So you can have things like your agentic experience. You've got more tools in there for data scientists, as well as your citizen data scientists and your no-code users. You've got more data cataloging capability, and you've got things like the chat interface, better workflows, and more insights. And if we have a look at the difference between building and buying, so on the buy, if you're buying the FAIDP, like I say, you've got everything wrapped up into one single wrapper. It's consistent in terms of pricing, all under one supplier, and all managed and maintained for you going forward. The big difference, even if you're building with an Oracle stack, so you've got one supplier, you might still have multiple visualization tools, separate AI and ML services. You're responsible for maintaining the data pipelines, which is very difficult when you're doing that against a landscape of quarterly releases. It's not like it was in on-premise days where you only have to worry about an update once every 5 years. You might have multiple data warehouses and lots of different maintenance contracts. So it is a very different landscape. So the Fusion AI data platform is something that is well worth considering, if you are looking at an analytics solution. Just wanted to sort of highlight some of the business outcomes that you might have. So looking at the finance side, you can reduce your maverick spend, managing the employee expenses, and boosting payment efficiencies. So you've got the machine learning algorithms in there that will pick up potential fraud, that will look at how at risk invoices are for paying and for receiving payment as well. So you've got customer collection risk prediction and supplier payment risk prediction. So all of that will boost your procurement efficiency, your payment efficiency, help you meet your payment targets and your purchasing targets as well. On the HR side, then you've got things like reducing employee turnover, reducing your time to hire, looking at patterns of absence and being able to identify where people maybe are taking every Friday and Monday off, or specific dates aligning to football or rugby fixtures or whatever it might be. And then more effectively managing the skills and performances as well, making sure that your workforce is as skilled as it needs to be, or even can be, taking things further. And one of the big things about analytics is it gives you that holistic view all in one place. So on this particular workbook here, I've combined my general ledger, my sub ledger, my HR, and also combining finance and HR into a single report all on one page, whereas that's not possible in any of the other tools that Oracle have, and it's very difficult in other tools as well. The other great thing about the analytics side is the user interface. So it takes it far more from just presenting tables of numbers, far more into a story for users, more down the data storytelling route. So you can see here, this is set up more like an infographic. It's much easier on the eye than just having tables of numbers everywhere. And even taking that further into more like a magazine article or a leaflet that users can more easily consume rather than just having lots of data presented to them. A lot more of the narrative around it as well. It's a system generated narrative, different visualization types that are easier to consume. So you can really get the highlights very, very quickly. Appreciate that's a lot of information, and I did start to accelerate as we went through it. But that brings us on to the Q&A. Yayan, any questions that you wanted to?
Yes, we have had a few.
Yeah, so I'm happy to go through those. I'll go through the Q&A first.
There's some in the Q&A and chats, by the way.
Yeah, so there's a question in there for those that are using Power BI. How do you connect to Oracle data tables? Can you connect to the live Oracle data? At the moment, as far as I'm aware, it's not possible to connect Power BI to the live data. If you've got the Fusion Artificial Intelligence Data Platform, so FAIDP, then you can connect to the subject areas of the FAIDP system if you're using the desktop version of Power BI. It doesn't work with the web version. You do have to have the desktop version, but I believe that's still free of charge. It just needs a client install. So I think that's the only question in the Q&A. So I'll move on to the chat. Okay, so we've got a question on transactional reporting. Yeah, so transactional reporting, I sort of badge up into all of the transactional tools and the functional screens as well. So it's more than reporting. And you might have noticed on the first slide for transactional reporting, I'd actually put reporting in inverted commas, because it's not necessarily reporting, it's data access for transactional people, but it tends to get badged as reporting. So then the next question we have is self-learner on basic analysis reports in OTBI for HCM. Got to a stage where I need to start summarizing content rather than just using and providing raw analysis outputs. So as a heavy Excel user, I can get my head around concepts of pivoting, but I'm having trouble summarizing content by month in an online pivot table. So that's something that we can absolutely help with. I wasn't planning on going through any live demo today. I'm not actually logged into any system, but if you want to reach out to us separately on that one, then we can look at what we can do to help you on that. It will be slightly different from organization to organization based on the ways that you've set up things like your calendars. So it's not a one size fits all. So it would be better to maybe take that offline. A lot of the HR information isn't going to give you the trends that you might be looking for. So if you're looking at maybe how many people have been absent, or how many people have been absent from the 1st of January to the 1st of April, it can be a little bit more difficult because it's not looking at that point in time. It will say how many people have been off in January and how many days did they have off in January. So let's have a look at the requirements on that one and see what we can do to help. So I just wanted to sort of highlight a few key points really from today's session that you can just take away and think about, rather than having to sort of digest all of that information that you've already had. So the first one for me is see through all of those options. Look at the best tool for the use case that you're looking at. It might be that you need to have a report in 3 different places. So actual versus budget, for example, you might need it in your transactional reporting area because you're trying to close your financial period and you need to know what journals you need to post, what journals have been posted already, do I need to post any accruals, what's the impact of that journal. So that would be the use case for it within OTBI or Financial Reporting Center, or even the functional screens. In EPM, you're not necessarily going to worry about your real-time actuals, because generally you're going to be closing, or you're going to be reforecasting against your closed periods, and I know there are exceptions to that, but in the vast majority of cases, you're looking at closed periods, so the actuals data isn't moving. Whereas as people are updating their forecast, you want to know what the impact of that is, maybe at a higher level. So if I've increased my forecast and Yayan's increased his, obviously that's going to have a knock-on effect at the parent level. It might be that one of us needed to decrease and the other increase, or both stay the same. And then in analytics, you're not necessarily worried about the position moving, but you're looking at how things have changed over time. So you're looking at how accurate your forecasts have been over time. Where have there been anomalies and why have there been? So you can actually do that drill down to look at, yes, there's been an anomaly there. We didn't address it. This is why it happened. The next one then is to step back and ask, do I actually need a report? As we've seen, there's a lot of data within the functional workbenches that can surface data for users. You can even build your own OTBI reports, and the system admins can embed those within the functional screens. So where we saw that absence calendar, it's not just the out-of-the-box versions of those that you're restricted to. You can actually embed custom reports and dashboards into those functional screens as well. A big lessons learned for me is when you're implementing, don't spend too much time looking back at what you had before. Think about what you're going to need in future. And this is a massive, massive one, because what you had in the past might not exist in the current world. So I've worked with customers in the past who've said, right, the number one report that I need is this. That process no longer exists in cloud, or it exists in a completely different way. So, telling your SI or having a requirement internally that says, yes, you've absolutely got to deliver this when it doesn't exist, obviously it's not possible. The other thing with that is technology changes. So I've had customers who have moved from a custom build Oracle OAC solution to the Fusion Artificial Intelligence data platform. And when they did that project, they just did a lift and shift. The technology, because they were using OAC Classic and they moved to Data Visualizer, the technology was different. So lift and shift became very difficult, and they ended up having to do a lot of custom work that they shouldn't really have needed to do. So think about optimizing any change, any customization, and really look at what the requirements are going forward. Extracting the data from Oracle Cloud isn't necessary. It is difficult. It introduces complexity, it introduces risk, data latency. You've got the tools within the functional screens and within the transactional reporting tools to have that data in real time. Even if you're extracting it to something like FAIDP, it's all still within your Oracle landscape, so it's not going out into separate data warehouses. It stays within your account, so you're not looking at data pipelines, duplicating data. It can all be in that one place. Excel integration is much better than you've probably been told before. I was really shocked when I sort of rediscovered the Smart View capability for OTBI. That's something that is worth looking at. If you're looking at Power BI as an option for reporting and analytics, much easier potentially to use Smart View if what you're doing is quite basic. And then the final one, and I haven't really touched on it much, is that there are multiple tools, but you can unify that end user experience. So that there's ways of sort of presenting that data and sort of accessing that data to bring everything together in a more unified way. So that's everything from my perspective. I'm just going to hand over to Yayan for the call to action.
Thanks, Dan. So this is the first of a series of things on reporting and analytics, with the next one, as you can see there, Introduction to Fusion Artificial Intelligence Data Platform. We're looking at additional things after that as well, including potentially an in-person event. I put the link in the chat. You can see a QR code there as well. Please feel free to share this with your teams. Also, I just saw in the Q&A, Dan, there was another point just saying if we could reach out.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's in the chat. It was I've got the email address.
Well, I can have a look at that. That's fine.
And there's also another one. Is there a list of seeded reports?
So all of the information on anything that comes out of the box is available on the Oracle website. So for the transactional tools, it's all at docs.oracle.com. So for OTBI, BI Publisher, and so on, there is an Oracle Analytics website that has all of the FAIDP content and also some other possible capabilities as well. Let me put the link to that in the chat for you so you can access that.
Just to mention, whilst Dan's doing that, that after this, please also feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be sending a recording. Dan, just as well, if you just look above what you just sent the link, there's another question, I believe.
Yeah, so where should we look to get more information on the Smart View capabilities, especially when used in combination with OTBI or within the UI? I actually posted a blog about that on LinkedIn last week or the week before. So what I'll do is I will share that with all of the participants. I'll put it into a document and share that so you'll all have access to that as well. Yeah, I think so. So I just wanted to, before we finish, I just wanted to put one final poll on just to find out how you found today, really, and whether you feel more comfortable. So I'll just launch that poll now. If you do want to have any additional time with us, I know that was one of the questions, we can reach out to you and book some time. Are there any further questions or any burning issues or anything that people want to know before we finish? Conscious that it is 1:45 and people probably need something to eat. No. Yeah, in that case, we can finish there. Thank you very much for your time, everyone.